named Piers Park in memory of the glory days of the East Boston waterfront. Boston's #1 import these days is foreign oil. Most homes in New England are heated with oil. Also aviation fuel, diesel and gasoline. Rock salt from the drying pans of Spain and the Caribbean for the highways in winter. Gypsum for plaster manufacture. Gravel, cement, and asphalt for the construction trades, and of course the automobiles. Boston's #1 export these days is scrap steel. Boston Harbor was an ideal harbor in the early days, well protected and landlocked with lots of waterfront space around the peninsula shore. An advantage in the early days of sail, Boston is 2 days closer to Europe than New York City, but in later years, as ships and cargoes grew ever larger, Boston lost out to the larger, more accessible port of New York. Boston Harbor has a controlled depth of about 65 feet at high tide, severely limited by the many tunnels that run beneath the harbor now, which limit the dredging possibilities. We're now passing over the subway tunnel that runs beneath the harbor from downtown over to the airport and points north, the Blue Line, part of Boston's fine and extensive subway system. The first subway in America ran underneath the Boston Common in 1897. Before subways, automobiles, tunnels, and bridges, there were dozens of ferries that crisscrossed the harbor, providing transportation into the peninsula city. Coming up on our right is the old East Boston ferry landing with a roadway running down to it. The old pilings in a V shape guided the ferries into the dock. The railroads ran from all over the North Shore down to this landing where the passengers would then board the ferry for the penny fare trip across the harbor. The operators later raised the fare up to 5 cents. The riders struck in protest, refusing to ride. They reduced the fare back to a penny for a while. The automobile brought about the end to all the original ferries by the 1950s, but it's also the automobile that has since caused the return of numerous commuter and ferry boats throughout the harbor. And this is because of now intense traffic jams on the city's highways. So once again, ferries have become a very popular, a very pleasant, and a very important part of the transportation system here in Boston. All along the East Boston waterfront used to stand many marine industries, shipyards, and foundries. One of these shipyards belonged to Donald McKay, the master designer and shipbuilder who perfected the clipper ships right here in Boston. The most famous of his ships would probably be the Flying Cloud, which made the passage around the Horn from New York to San Francisco in a record 89 days and 8 hours in 1851. And this record stood unbroken until the 1970s. When a modern sailboat, the Great American, named for another of McKay's ships, it made the same passage in 69 days, but it took them 4 separate tries at a cost of several millions of dollars, whereas the Flying Cloud did its passage on its maiden voyage while carrying cargo